Let's not beat around the bush. The link you're looking for is in the description below. I'm not going to make you jump through any hoops. It'll just be a Google Drive folder, super simple. So you can go ahead and download them and ignore the rest of the video, or you can stick around. I'll show you how to use the LUTs properly, and I'll do my best to be brief and respect your time. These LUTs should work for any image color profile that you're using in your camera. However, I did design them specifically for my custom log image profile, and I'll just link that at the end of the video just to make it easy for you. That'll give you the best results, but like I said, it's not necessary. You can just use these straight out of the box. Now, Nikon camera color science is already fantastic, but these LUTs take it to another level, and I will show you the secret sauce that lets me do it. Okay. All right. This is a color target. This one's made by Color Checker. In professional video editing software like DaVinci, you can include this in your footage, and at a click of your trackpad, DaVinci will correct your footage to match this. Now, the thing is, one of these is like $100, $200. That's not that much money, except that I've personally found that unless you're really picky, once you shoot this under one light condition, you can just keep using that information every time you're under similar lighting. I find it hard to remember to shoot this. I find it hard to remember to take it with me. And so I just don't, and I forget it. So what I've done is gone around and shot this target under my most used lighting conditions. Once in daylight, once in shadow, once at night, once in my studio, and created LUTs that I could just load in anytime I'm making a video. Now I don't have to take this with me. Now I don't have to remember it. And 90% of the value of getting the colors right is there every time, because I'm always shooting under very similar lighting conditions. If I was on a film set making a movie, lighting creatively all the time, I'd want to shoot this every time. But most of the time when I'm shooting vlogs like this or even commercial work, once is enough. It's a really cool tool. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, I'll put a link in the description below. But with these LUTs that I'm giving you, now you may not have to. Pretty good deal. Now, I've got the Nikon Z30 and Nikon Z6, so that's the LUTs I've been able to make. I've also included a few creative artistic LUTs that I like to use a lot for you guys to play around with as well. Pretty much every professional video editing software out there will be able to install the LUTs, Final Cut Pro, Premiere, DaVinci, all that. But they all install a little differently, so I'll include a PDF in the download that'll go over that. But once they're installed, they're super easy to use, and I'll just go inside and I'll show you. All right, so I'm going to be in DaVinci Resolve again today. It's just my go-to editing piece of software these days. Now, unlike a creative LUT, which you want to apply at the end, these are meant to be applied at the first step. So I've got a Z30 piece of footage here, so I'm going to use a Z30 starter. And as you can see, this footage has my log color profile applied. So I'm going to apply the daylight indoors. Right away, the colors just become a lot more true. If I wasn't quite happy with them, I could try the overcast outdoors or sunshine outdoors, shadow outdoors. And one thing I should note here is most of these settings are shot with sunshine white balance, with the exception of the lamp light LUTs. Those are meant to be used with the light bulb white balance setting. Now, these LUTs aren't so much for white balancing. You are almost definitely going to have to tweak your white balance after you apply the LUT, but these LUTs can help to pop the color and give you truer color tones. Now, once you've applied one of these LUTs, depending on your footage and your exposure settings, there's a decent chance that it's going to cause your exposure to either clip on the highs or clip on the lows. And so the next thing you want to do is just adjust that. And I like to rely on the scopes for this. As you can see in this case, it expanded the color so that we are now clipping in the highs. So I'm going to apply a custom curve and just bring down the highlights until they're all just within color range. And I'm just going to see whether my shadows need the same. Looks like they're fine. So now if I apply a new color correction, I can see that the color amount is nicely dispersed across the entire range. And from here, I can apply my contrast. So I can just quickly apply a color contrast curve and maybe apply a little bit of global contrast, adjust the pivot. There we go, that's looking pretty good. And then when we have the proper contrast in play, I can just tweak my white balance. Now, the only caution that I have with these color correction LUTs is that because Nikon cameras tend to favor the greens, that means that when you restore the reds, sometimes they can pop a little bit too much. And so sometimes you just have to go into your hue versus sat and just bring down the saturation on those a little bit. Or alternatively, DaVinci now has this cool color warper tool, and you can select the red color range and just adjust the hue a little bit. Usually I find that I want to just make it a little bit more yellow, and then maybe bring down the sat a little bit and maybe bring the illumination up a little bit. And that usually deals with red and skin tone. Because of my complexion, I find that I have to do that sometimes, especially with my lips. It can really get too red if I've been working hard and I get a little bit flushed, like if I'm walking with the camera or something. Or maybe it's cold outside and there's just more blood to my face than normal. Sometimes I have to tweak that. And that's it. Now you can apply your creative LUTs. So I've included a few creative LUTs. Let me see here. Now, often with creative LUTs, when you first apply them, they're going to be way too strong and you're probably going to have to dial them back. So in the case of the Remember LUT, which is roughly the grade I applied to my first feature film, kind of a bleached bypass cold blue look, it's maybe looking a little strong. And so each piece of software is going to be a little bit different here. DaVinci, I feel like it's a little bit of a workaround. You have to go to the key tab in your color correction workspace and come down to key output and just drag it down about 50%. I could even warm it up a little bit there. Maybe add a little bit of green. And suddenly we've got a very stylized look. So that's it. Have fun with it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll try to answer as many of those as I can. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the link to download the LUTs is in the description below. Thanks for hanging out today. Hope you found this useful. And if you haven't added my log profile to your camera yet, you need to watch this video next. I'll see you next time.